Rolf, it's great to see you.
My pleasure, Raoul. Thanks for having me.
Where in the world are you?
I'm currently in the south of Lugano in a small village called Morcote.
Nice. I'd love, before we dig into a few things, just to give a bit of your background and your journey into crypto and the whole thing, because it's always fascinating how everybody gets where they are today.
Yeah, I guess my journey started when I was an undergrad at USC. I was running a software program called SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Now, I'm not like a weird dude, but like they basically send you these little packets of space via a program to your computer, and you can use your computer's resources to analyze those packets to see if there's like some cool shit in space. And so I was running that as an undergraduate, and it was like a nerdy thing that I thought was awesome, was like made by Berkeley. And my computer started heating up and it exploded. And I was like, this thing sucks, right? I'm trying to like do something cool. And like, I didn't have any money. And I was like, this is terrible, right? And so when I fell upon Bitcoin, it was basically the same thing, right? Some kind of network sending me a bunch of packets of data. My computer was doing some kind of work for that network, but I actually got paid for it. I was like, this is awesome, right? I got to do this thing, right? It's going to pay for my laptop. And so that's how I got into Bitcoin around 2011.
2011.
I didn't keep a lot.
Who introduced you to it though? Who introduced you to it? How the hell did
I
that
was doing
happen?
my PhD actually at that time at a school called INSEAD, which is a business school. And it was a guy in the finance department who was coding genetic algorithms. And he was like, Rolf, I know you've been doing like this weird stuff with networks. And so you should try out this thing called Bitcoin. And he just dropped by my office and I downloaded the thing and just, had it running on my laptop.
And you didn't keep it?
I didn't keep it. Mistakes were made. What did I do? Too young, too dumb.
So what happens next? So 2011, you've figured out Bitcoin mining. You've had some fun. You've sold it. You've made
some fun.
$3.50, and you're now a hero.
Then basically ended up doing a dissertation, forgot about it for a while, and then got back into it around 2016 quite actively, and then actually finished writing my dissertation valuing crypto assets. So there was both a theory for how crypto assets or tokens become a mechanism for organizations to deliver a product or service. So I don't think of kind of crypto assets really as much as like a digital gold kind of commodity thing, or as some kind of like currency like US dollar or euro. I think of them as like organizations. How can tokens empower organizations in ways that organizations wouldn't be able to do stuff without them? That's really what my dissertation was about. And of course, the easiest way to test them was to grab a bunch of data from the blockchain. So I was doing on-chain analytics in my dissertation, where I grabbed like all the addresses, was analyzing if they're profit or losses. This was 2016, right? Like no one was doing this. And then predicted token prices, along with some other stuff like back then white papers were big and ICOs. So I was analyzing the stories, and like the story that you tell about your organization, how does that influence the valuation, measured as both the amount of funds that you raise in an ICO, and then on a continuing basis once you reach liquidity with the token via listing on exchanges. So yeah, found some cool stuff.
What did you find out in this dissertation? Because that's fascinating. What was your general conclusions of all of this?
I guess one of the not so surprising insights is that momentum was a huge driver of prices, right? So previous prices, prices today, which is like, duh, right?
You were clearly new to markets at that point.
Yeah. And then one of the most surprising things was that different types of rhetorical appeals determine valuation. So what does that mean, right? So rhetorical appeals, there's three of them. Aristotle said there's appeals to pathos, appeals to ethos, and appeals to logos. Logos is logic, right? Things like numbers, math, think of it like balance sheet analysis, what's your treasury, blah, blah, book value. Appeals to pathos, appeals to emotion, right? So it's things like greed or jealousy or like happiness, versus appeals to ethos or morals. So in the space of crypto, it'd be things like decentralization as an end in and of itself, right? As opposed to, like going against this Bitcoin as a mechanism to like uproot the state, right? It's also like, it's a kind of a moral thing. It takes it. And so what I found was that certain sequences of appeals actually ended up producing better returns in terms of how much funds you would raise, as well as what the token valuation would be than if you had a different.
Did they need all three? Or could you survive with two or one? Or did you need all three?
Yeah, great question. So it gets a bit into the weeds now, but actually at different time periods, different appeals would be more successful. So actually in early 2016, 2016, early 2017, white papers or stories that had mostly appeals to logos were most successful. Now, if you think about it, like, why would that be the case? It's mostly the audience of people who were like reading these kinds of things were like techies, right? So they don't like flowery language. They don't like wishy-washy stuff. They don't like moral stuff. They just want like, okay, what's the code and what's the numbers and what's like the protocol specification, right? As we got later into 2017s, we started seeing a shift where white papers that had more appeals to pathos or more appeals to ethos ended up raising a lot more money than white papers.
And I guess that's the psychology of crowds, isn't it? So in 2016, the market's not effervescent. So therefore, the people doing the homework are the people of the technology people at that point in the cycle.
Right.
Then once the crowd starts getting interested because the price action, as you said, momentum builds, then suddenly you're driving emotion as opposed to logic.
Yeah. I want to get rich, I'm still in my house, it's just like get rich quick kind of thing is, my life will be changed. I mean, it's got nothing really to do with crypto. It's just like the stories that we've heard many times before. So I finished my dissertation, did a little fun based on some of this stuff and wrote some algorithms, and then decided to do 2-3 ventures in the space. One was a venture called Keyless, which instead of people having to type in their password to get into MetaMask and control their wallets, it would just be like a Face ID mechanism. So just like I'm talking through you now via camera on your laptop, you would just basically, it would recognize your biometrics and it would log you into your wallet. Great for my mom. Obviously, security is not as great than if you have like 2FA and a bunch of stuff, but it was one way to make crypto accessible. So we developed that tech, but then my co-founders decided to take that technology and go somewhere else outside crypto. Nice. And I'm like, crypto through and through, like I will forever be. So, I was like, that was done. Then did a DeFi aggregator. Think of Wealthfront for crypto, or what Yearn is today in some ways. But I was doing that in 2018, which was a great idea at the wrong time. In other words, lost a lot of money. Should have done it a year later, right? And then, now I'm involved in a few different startups in the space. Also, most famously, Metacartel Ventures DAO, which is a group of 70 builders in the Ethereum ecosystem, founders from protocols like Aave to Kenny, the ex-CTO of Maker, to basically a whole bunch of different protocols. And we all come together. We pool together some funds that's managed by a DAO, and we invested into other builders in the space.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to like and subscribe for more crypto-related content. Also, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto.